Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Piper Perabo got a raw deal on Yellowstone. Why Summer deserved a better ending. While there are still spin-offs to look forward to, Yellowstone series finale was divisive amongst the fandom, and one character who got the worst deal was Piper Perabo's Summer Higgins. The entire second half of Yellowstone's fifth and final season was marred by the departure of series lead Kevin Costner. The show never quite figured out how to recover, with the death of Costner's John Dutton leaving a Montana-sized hole in the series. As his love interest, Summer was left without a real storyline of her own. Summer Higgins is introduced in Yellowstone Season 4 as a fiery environmentalist who comes into John Dutton's crosshairs. However, she soon starts to fall for the curmudgeonly ranch owner, and the two form a sort of romantic relationship. This puts Summer into direct conflict with John's fiercely protective daughter Beth, Kelly Riley, though the two form a truce later in the show. But while plenty of Yellowstone Season 5's main characters got solid endings to their storylines, the show decided to end Summer's in the least imaginative way possible, which is frustrating considering Perabo's talents as an actress. In all the chaos and emotions surrounding John Dutton's death in the premiere of Season 5, Part 2, Summer isn't even present until Yellowstone Episode 10, The Apocalypse of Change, when Beth bumps into her at the family homestead, saying she had completely forgotten about the environmental activist. In an incredibly creepy twist, Beth reveals that after Summer was granted clemency, she wasn't actually under house arrest, and that John had made that up so she would stay with him. This was a horrible violation of Summer's rights, but she's never given the time to process this, as Beth kicks her out of the house. From there, Rip drives her to the airport where, rather than expressing rage or horror, Summer makes a few wistful comments about John before leaving the show forever. Of course, this likely wasn't the plan for Summer's ending, and if Costner remained on the show and John's character stayed alive, Summer's storyline would likely feature a more complete ending that detailed her reaction to the fake house arrest. It also begs the question, how many other people knew that Summer was free to leave the Dutton Ranch? Beth certainly did, and why she didn't use that information sooner to get Summer out of her hair is a mystery. But really John is the person Summer needed to direct her vitriol to. With him dead and her only defined as his love interest, there was really nowhere for her to go. When Summer is first introduced in Yellowstone, she's depicted as a fierce environmental activist. She even meets John for the first time wearing handcuffs at a protest. But Summer's character soon loses her fighting spirit. As the series progresses, Summer is defined by her relationship with John, and to a lesser degree Beth. Summer isn't given much to do in the show that doesn't relate to John, so when he's killed off, her story is over. When Summer and Beth have their final confrontation, they yell at each other one more time, which reinforces their toxic relationship while not allowing either of them, especially Summer, to explore any emotions they might be feeling after John's sudden death. If the show had allowed Summer to grieve, despite the fake house arrest, it would have given her some closure. Additionally, Summer's choice to leave Montana after John's death proves that she only existed as a character so that she could be sexualized through a relationship with John. But her dependency on John wasn't just based on sex. She also served as a counter to the Dutton patriarch on environmental issues, which brought Summer's passion to the forefront. But since the show stopped seeing her as an environmentalist and only as a sex object, there was no room for this storyline. Summer could have sought legal action against John and the Duttons, especially considering she was falsely imprisoned. This would have certainly given her agency as a character and reinforced the fighting spirit that she had when she was introduced. But she seeks little to no recourse and quietly goes away after John's death, giving no indication of what she's planning to do moving forward. It was never even revealed where she was flying to. Summer even had a thriving environmental mission, but there were no established plans for her to continue. She also could have mended or even confronted her relationship with Beth, instead of simply leaving the ranch at Beth's insistence. Despite being falsely imprisoned there, Summer grew to have a soft spot for the Yellowstone, and she and Beth could have formed a shaky alliance in the quest to help save it. Case selling the ranch to Chief Thomas Rainwater at the end of Yellowstone would likely have been a decision Summer supported, so she wouldn't have been totally irrelevant. Yellowstone has an obsession with catfights that's frustrating and problematic. While Beth Dutton, the show's most prominent female character, certainly doesn't discriminate on gender lines when it comes to throwing a punch, the amount of women she's only too happy to fight, for sexist reasons, speaks to the show's overall woman problem. One of her biggest fights is with Summer in Season 5, Part 1. While under house arrest at Dutton Ranch, Summer criticizes a dinner that featured different gay meats. Summer and Beth subsequently get into a childish catfight that turns ugly when it comes to blows. The fight only ends when Rip intervenes and orders them to fight properly. The entire situation is problematic, especially considering that audiences are now becoming used to seeing strong women on television. But instead, two major Yellowstone female characters get into a petty squabble over a dinner menu that is only stopped by a man. The fact that Rip stops the fight perpetuates the notion that women can't solve their problems on their own and are only brought to their senses when a man breaks things up. Summer's romantic storyline is another example of Yellowstone's woman problem, as she starts out as a passionate environmentalist, but is eventually reduced to nothing more than John's lover. This mirrors Monica's storyline in the show, as in earlier seasons, she was incredibly passionate about Indigenous issues, teaching history at a college and even putting herself in harm's way to help catch a predator who was brutalizing women in the Indigenous community. But by the end of Yellowstone, Monica was nothing more than the doting wife of Case. Whether Summer, Beth, or Monica, Yellowstone created some great female characters, but the show didn't care about them enough to give them good endings. Piper Perabo's tenure on Yellowstone was supposed to be a game changer. As Summer Higgins, an environmental activist with a fierce sense of justice and a stubborn streak that rivaled any cowboy on the Dutton Ranch, she had all the makings of a compelling character. Yet instead of giving her an arc worthy of her potential, the show seemed to sideline her, reducing her to little more than a plot device. Summer deserved better, and so did Piper Perabo. When Summer first arrived on the scene, she brought a fresh dynamic to Yellowstone. Her character was a rare outsider who had a legitimate moral opposition to the way John Dutton ran his empire. She wasn't just another enemy looking to take the ranch for profit. She was an activist with a cause, someone who genuinely believed in protecting the land, just from a different perspective than the Duttons. Her clashes with John, and especially Beth, made for some of the most intriguing confrontations in the series. Yet, after a promising start, the show took a turn that ultimately wasted both Perabo's talents and Summer's narrative potential. Instead of being given a full-fledged story arc that allowed her to evolve, Yellowstone relegated her to the background, her purpose seemingly reduced to serving as John's romantic distraction. The relationship between John and Summer never quite made sense, nor did it do justice to either character. John's involvement with Summer felt more like a midlife crisis than a meaningful connection, and Summer's presence at the ranch was often forced, making her interactions with the other characters awkward at best. One of the biggest missteps in Summer's storyline was the way the show handled her legal troubles. When she was arrested and faced serious jail time, it seemed like an opportunity to explore the consequences of standing up against powerful figures like the Duttons. Instead, John swooped in to secure her an inexplicably lenient deal, which conveniently kept her around without addressing the gravity of her activism or her actions. The show glossed over what could have been a rich storyline about compromise, consequences, and the struggle between ideology and pragmatism. And then there was Beth, The animosity between Beth Dutton and Summer had the potential to be one of the show's most thrilling rivalries. Beth, fiercely protective of her family and deeply cynical about the world, was always going to see someone like Summer as naive at best and an outright threat at worst. Their confrontations crackled with energy, Summer challenging Beth's cutthroat worldview.